But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process. But the truth is, when you actually focus on the process and you really immerse yourself in that, that is when you'll get the results you want.
So today is going to be interesting, right? Like we have, I think you called it a smorgasbord of topics. Yeah.
And
did you?
Oh, sorry.
I was going to, do you know this about me? I once waited tables at a restaurant called Smorgas.
I did not know that. I once waited tables as well. It was not called Smorgas though.
We served meatballs.
Really?
Yeah, it was a Swedish meatball place called Smorgas.
All right.
We had Swedish meatballs. There were mashed potatoes and lingonberry sauce. That was like our top menu items.
Very, very interesting. The more you know.
The more you know. Does that help? Is that helpful?
It really puts everything together, Haley.
All right. Well, let's dive in. It's funny. We started with, food. I think topic one is about food, but it's really about this grand metaphor.
Yes.
One thing I hear a lot, we see a lot of, is this idea of like, I can't cook. I don't know how to cook, right? And I just had this conversation with a dear friend. I've known her for years. And she said to me the other day, I don't know how to cook. And I just thought to myself, that's just not true. It's just not true. And here's why.
Did you say that to her?
Yeah, I did. But what's really great is she knows me so well. In a later part of the conversation, she actually talked herself through it to what I was going to say to her, which is what it really boils down to is you're a perfectionist and you don't like messing up.
Yes. But I love that you told her. Good friends will talk smack to your face and talk you up behind your back.
Yes. Well, I always think about what you said about your mom. What was it when you go to her with a question, what would she say to you?
Do you want to hear what you need to hear or you want to hear?
Yeah. That I try to be that. I try to be like her. I think it's a good way to be.
Yeah.
So yeah. What I really realized was, and now I think going forward when we have clients who come to us, and this is one of the obstacles they identify, because listen, I mean, there's so many obstacles on this path to getting healthy, right? But I think I'm going to look at it differently. When I hear somebody say, I don't know how to cook, I'm immediately going to then think, okay, let's really break that down into what that actually is. And I think one of the big ones is perfectionism, and not liking to be a beginner. What do you think about that?
Yes. My wife, for example, is an amazing baker. Amazing baker. And one of the reasons why she loves baking is how precise it is. You have recipes, you put exactly this in, it's a formula, and you get this, and it yields this. Cooking is a little more, a little this, little that. It's a lot more feel. And I know, she's told me, she does, it's not fun to mess up.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're like cooking for your family. And that's what I told my friend, right? Like, I was like, listen, I get it. Time is precious. You've got 3 growing children. She's like in the preteen and teen years,
right?
2 teenage boys, right? Like standing there going, when's dinner? And she's trying to make something delicious to feed her people. My gosh, if you mess up, they're going to be like,
right,
we can't eat this.
Right.
So I get it. And I think, it's interesting that you brought up the idea of baking and there being such precision and science and chemistry behind that versus cooking, which I really do think as of an art,
yes,
right? That's permission. If we can call something art, in my mind, that's permission for it to be in the eye of the beholder or the taster. Or
right. And that's precisely why it's so scary. For some people.
Yeah. I mean, I do think preteens and teenagers are scary.
Just the idea of like, do I add this, too much sauce? This is terrible. My kids are going to hate it. They're starving. They're tired. It's a long day. Like there's a lot of, There's a lot. But I think we brought this up because it is more of a metaphor.
Right.
But listen, there's no doubt if you're willing to embrace the art of cooking, it can only help you, right? In with your health, but also just that mindset of
Yes.
a willingness to mess up.
Yeah. And to extend the metaphor to what we're really talking about, right? Like, so when people come to the program, I think this shows up, right? Like, let's take somebody who says, I don't know how to cook. So what are they doing instead? Right? Like, they might be doing a lot of takeout, they might be doing frozen meals, um, or might be relying on a partner or a spouse or a friend to prepare their meals. Which, by the way, all fine, right? It's all fine. But the greater metaphor is like, if you're coming into wanting something different, then you have to be able to stand back and say, well, here's what I've been doing. It's not getting me where I want to go. So I've got to be trying something new. Right. And I think this kind of blends into the next topic that we wanted to talk about today, which is, if it was working, you wouldn't be looking to change it.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
So, right. Like, I see a lot of times people come into the program and they're like, well, here are the 10 things that I've always done. They worked great. They're not working anymore. But then they come in and they're with their coach and they're like, but I did these 10 things and they worked.
Right.
I want to do these 10 things again. But they're not working anymore. And it's like, all right, we got to be willing to apply some artistry. And actually, I had that conversation with a former client a couple years back. I was like, getting healthy is actually an art. Right? There is scientific pieces to it, just like we know, like the boiling point of water, very scientific. I suppose you could apply an artistry to boiling water. I don't know. Like, if you stand and watch it,
Right.
I'm not sure. But point is, like, I think it's a mix. And I think if we would embrace this idea of artistry a little more in our approach to changing our health outcomes, well, first of all, I think it'd be a lot more joyful. Yes, messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But messes can be fun too, right? Get the kids in the kitchen, if you will. let them make a mess, and then you can blame them when it doesn't turn out. I don't know. What are your thoughts about kind of blending those two topics? The idea that, well, this is what I've always done and it worked. It's not working anymore, but let me go back to that. What's that about?
Yeah. So a few things. I think if it's not sustainable, it's not successful. And people, I talk to people all the time where they're like, yeah, this used to work or it worked for me. But the key thing is it worked. But to me, is it still working? That's my definition. Is it still working? And is what you're doing something that could keep on working? So yes, if it's not sustainable, it's not successful. Listen, I think there's instances where people were doing something, there were parts of that worked. And maybe in that case, they're just letting you know this part of that worked. But if you're coming into something and saying, this is what worked for me, and then it's like sometimes what we think we know gets in the way. And there needs to be that just art of letting go a little bit and trying something new.
Art of letting go.
Yeah. And
There's
I think
art.
and there it is. And I think also though, that idea of art is scary, Haley. Like, I think the uncertainty of not knowing how something's going to turn out, because that's, I think, the very big distinction of art versus a recipe. A recipe is an algorithm. You follow it, you get an end result. Art feels more unknown. There's a lot more uncertainty, and I think that's scary for people because they want certainty. They want a certain result, understandably. And
Right.
I don't think we're saying to just forget that, but maybe it's more the art of making mistakes, the art of trying things, right? And that to me is something I stress with my kids all the time, is like the ability to mess up and move forward, the ability to cross it out and move forward. Messing up is where learning happens. And if you're not messing up, you're not really trying that hard, right? If I always use basketball as an example because we're a big basketball family, like if my kids are practicing and they look great while practicing, that means they're doing stuff they already know how to do, right? Like that is a weird way to think about it, but most kids, when they're practicing, they're doing things they already know how to do, and it's fun and it feels good. But if you really want to get better and improve your skills and the way you play, you have to do things that feel weird. You have to look bad, like like you have to look like a beginner, right? And that's so
Yeah.
hard for people.
It
Yeah.
it is really hard. I I get it. I have a client I'm working with currently, and we've worked together for quite some time. And at the beginning of our partnership, um, I encouraged her to really get in touch with her body's signals, right? Like try to string the phone lines up, is what I like to call it, and see what the messaging is.
Yeah.
And we kind of struggled through that a little bit, and it was really hard. Initially, it didn't. We kind of had to like do some backtracking and some reprogramming and some others. We've come back to this practice, and one of the bigger themes we've been working with now, and I've said to her, I'm like, listen, push away from the shore of certainty, push away
Yeah.
and realize like it is going to feel strange, like a stranger in a new land for just a little while. And I really think embracing that helps us open up our perspectives, can help us see holes in our ways of thinking, which, listen, if you're coming into this program and working with a coach, you're asking for somebody to say, hey, show me my blind spots.
Hmm.
Show me what it is I've been so committed to believing and doing that's leading me in the direction I don't want to go. Right? Like, I think if you're asking for a coach's perspective and assistance and support, you're actually saying, help me mess up. Help me get okay with it, which is great. That's what a coach is there for, right?
Yeah. It's tricky because it's like it sounds like what you're saying is, forget the outcome, or like, don't worry about that, focus on the art. But the twist in all of this is, it's like, if you focus on the process, because that's ultimately what we would love, right? Focus on the process. Don't worry so much on the outcome. Mess up a little bit. But the reality is, and the twist at all this is, you will get to where you want to be. Like, I understand people want certainty. I understand the need for that. I get that. Life is uncertain. There's a lot of things going on. You want to know that you're going to get to where you want to be. I get that. But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process. But the truth is, when you actually focus on the process and you really immerse yourself in that, that is when you'll get the results you want. And,
Yep.
It's like the old, like, it's like you find the person you're looking for when you're not looking. Or it's like, that's how it, but like, or when you become the best version of yourself, like, that's when it really happens. But if you're just doing it with like, all right, I'm going to do this, but like, I really just want, the result. But if there's anything I can encourage you, is embrace that messiness. I've talked about this before, and I'm just really into this idea of just like comfort and discomfort. And just as we get older, we see comfort. And I don't know, man, I'm 42 years old. Like, anytime I feel alive and I have an opportunity to feel alive, I love it and I embrace it. And, as you get older, there's less and less instances where you feel alive. And I think messing up and learning and trying something new and feeling like a beginner is a big part of feeling that, and feeling young, or feeling vibrant and like you're growing, right? Otherwise, you just risk this monotony.
Well, here's maybe a helpful mindset for those of us. I mean, I see it, Adam. I see what you talk about. I'm the same age as you. And it's like, I can see, I look at like the daily rhythm of my life and I'm like, where am I getting too comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then there's that part of me that's like, well, why challenge it? It feels good. I'm good. Like, I'm doing okay. But maybe there's room for us to adopt a perspective of it's a damned privilege to get to be a beginner again, especially as we come into like the second half of our lives, right? Like, where could we embrace the privilege of messing up?
Yeah.
Right? When you're a kid, right? We encourage that. We like to see that in our kids. Um, they're in they're in school where they're, expected to mess up so that we can witness learning.
Mm-hmm.
What a privilege it could be as an adult to give ourselves permission to do that again. We are not on the back, the downhill, the back end of things.
Right.
There can be like a new venture in learning. And we do see a lot of people embrace that. Like maybe somebody takes up like a new skill, like they want to learn a language, or they want to learn to play the piano, or whatever the case is. Like it's a privilege to get to do that. And we can do that. That is an ability we have.
Yeah.
So if you want a new version of health, if you want a new version of you, give yourself that privilege of being messy.
Yes. Because
I don't know.
messy is what leads to growth, and growth is what you want, right? Like that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you're doing what you've always done, that's not going to feel messy.
Right. It's going to feel like every day.
Right. So
the devil,
Yes.
So, all right, let's kind of bring this around. Did we touch on all the topics?
I think so.
Did we get the smorgasbord, all the meatballs, the mashed potatoes, the lingonberry. Let's go back to the cooking analogy.
Yeah.
Like, listen, we talked about this. I get it. Like, not everybody, there is not always time. There is not always time to get in the kitchen and make a meal. So this is not going to be a challenge to do that.
Right.
I mean, unless that's a place you want to get messy, then email us and let us know what mess you created in the kitchen, and we're going to celebrate with you. And then maybe we're going to recommend putting your children to work to clean it up. But like, I would love to hear how people are getting messy in their second childhood. Let's embrace that part of us that gets to be a kid again, gets to mess up, gets to learn something.
Right.
And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be health related, just to be clear, because I fully believe that anytime we open up space in our lives for anything that's messy, it's going to apply to health.
Right. How you do anything is how you do everything. And if you're allowing yourself to mess up elsewhere, then you'll likely be more inclined to mess up with your health. Though I would love, but you may disagree with me, I would love this week's challenge to be mess up somewhere with your health this week. Try something new, try a different tactic. Just let us know. Seek out, a mess. That's what I would love. But you want it to be, you're okay with it being anything?
I am, because I don't want people to like get stuck. Right. But for sure, let's just say bonus points if it has to do with health.
Okay. All right.
Bonus point. We'll send you bonus points in the version of thank you for letting us know. Here's your bonus points. I'm just kidding. No, honestly, like that'll be really cool. But yeah, I just don't want people to feel like, well, I'm not feeling brave about messing up with health. So let us know how else you're messing up. And by messing up, by the way, we mean learning, which is cool.
Right. And that's the whole idea. And this all goes in the theme with self-compassion, because self-compassion is such a critical piece of consistency.
Yep.
Those who are consistent are comfortable being less than perfect, and they're okay with being less than perfect, and they forgive themselves and they move on. And making mistakes is all part of it, and making mistakes is also the key to growth. So I'm excited to hear from you guys, as always.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's all we have on the smorgasbord for today. Take good care, and we'll see you next time.